What is up, guys? Hey, oh my god, it's a BarrowsBOY YouTube video. Figured I'd get a poll rundown out to you guys for this latest poll because it's a doozy, guys. It's a doozy. As always, please click this button right here. It opens in a browser window. The obvious development blog. It's a good thing. Read it. You can't vote unless you know what you're voting on. There's a lot of details to this stuff, guys, so do me a favor. Even if you watch the whole video, please go through, at least read some of the questions over. That would be very nice of you to do. Anyway, let's get into it. Poll rundown. Let's do what we gotta do. Let's get it done. Here we go. So, question 1. Now, these first few questions are all about helping out the revenants in the wilderness. Most of you will probably already know, Jagex added a revenant cave a while ago. It's got a bunch of monsters in it, including revenants. And they are, at this point, really worth killing, quite honestly. The problem is it's way too easy to die. So even though you can probably make upwards of 2 to 3 mil an hour if you're really clipping along, it's so easy to die that it's really just not worth it to be out there. So, interestingly enough, Jagex adding more content, or wanting to add more content to the Revenant Cave. Starting with weapons of every single combat style, we start with the Gorras Chain Mace. Now, I love that Jagex has kind of thrown some RuneScape lore into these items, but essentially, all you really need to know is that these are one-handed 60 base 60 weapons. I don't know if the staff is necessarily, but one-handed in the case of the bow, two-handed base 60 weapons that basically give you huge bonuses to fighting things in the wilderness. It costs Revenant Ether to fire, so these are basically degradable items, and you always lose all the ether every time you are killed with the item. Interestingly enough, about these items, they're going to be worth a lot of money. I don't know if you guys have ever gone off and killed a wildy boss. It's horrible. It's actually awful. Now, just to clarify, it is only against NPCs. So these items will only be good against NPCs. Ergo, Slayer tasks. I mean, honestly, think of a Slayer task. 50% increased melee accuracy and damage. If you're, for whatever reason, ranging, 50% increased damage and accuracy. That's a big deal. It's also really cool. And in terms of people going like, oh, I don't know if it's balanced. You're in the wilderness, my dude. Is my response to that. If anyone thinks these are not balanced, there's not a whole lot in the wildy that is to be gained. Let's be quite honest. It would be really cool to add, make the Revenant Cave, even though, again, as I started this whole discussion off, even though Revenants are a ton of money per hour, it is way too easy to die in that Revenant Cave, as it should be, in fairness. And it would be nice if there was another big ticket item or 3 that you could get while killing Revenants. I think this is awesome. I can't wait to see these weapons in action. There's going to be a huge meta change across the wilderness, which is exactly what the wilderness needs. It needs some spice. It needs some liveliness. I think this is going to help bring, all 3 of these are going to help bring that. Now, there is one we'll talk about in a second, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm voting yes to the 3 weapons, mostly because it can't be used in PvP, so it's not affecting your, player versus player combat, which is awesome. It is only helping you kill NPCs out in the wilderness. Now, talking about this old what's it, Foos? The Thameron's Scepter. Now, I'm going to read through this whole one because it's a little confusing. Scepter requires 60 magic and is charged with Revenant Ether to activate an additional 100% magic accuracy, and 25% magic damage boost against wilderness NPCs. Each spell that is cast using the scepter uses 1 Revenant Ether, regardless of the spell hitting or not, alongside the standard runes required. That's the big one. This staff does not have its own spell. You are casting your own magic with it. Very important. This staff is going to be kind of useless, which kind of sucks. It's one of these things where you want to be able to say, no, Jagex, I don't want this item. Let's make it a trident, man. Let's have it cost, somewhere around probably like 500 GP per cast of the spell. Let's have that cost be in Revenant Ether. And that's going to be a much better much more attractive thing for people to use. People are already bringing tridents out into the wilderness if they're doing PVM. Let this be the new wilderness trident. So kind of a shame that you have to use actual magic spells. It makes the normal spellbook a little stronger. Surge spells probably being the most likely thing you'd want to be casting out of this, especially if you're doing PVM. That being said, I struggle to think of a place, a boss, really any use, other than maybe the Crazed Archaeologist. That's about the only thing you're maging, PVM-wise, out in the wilderness. Lava Dragons, but I certainly don't want to be using Surge spells on Lava Dragons. I would much rather have a Trident. So, kind of hard to make this thing work. It would be interesting, but I think it's going to be dead content on release, unfortunately. This next one's kind of interesting. Those of you who are familiar with Dark Souls will recognize Avarice as this, like, kind of... not sure if he was a deity or just a symbol of greed, but there is the symbol of Avarice in Dark Souls, which is that giant head, the giant chest head with the tongue, the mimic head that you basically wear. Slowly drains your health, but you gain more souls every time you kill things. Well, this is kind of the same thing. It has the same stats of the glory, but it causes everything in the Rev Caves to be noted. So it's kind of the same purpose. It is risk versus reward. It's a little... most everything from Revenants in the Revenant Cave is noted. So I don't quite understand the point of this amulet. If you're killing Revenants, you already know most of their drops are noted already. This is not a problem. Then you think about killing other things in the Revenant Cave. Okay, there are dragons. But am I willing to be skulled risking this amulet? It's probably going to be worth a lot of money just to get noted dragon drops? Maybe. The rest of the Revenant Cave is relatively safe. PKers don't visit anywhere but Revenants. So this might be sneaky good. Look out for people hitting up the green dragons in the Revenant Cave and making actually a lot of money. That could be rather interesting. Maybe there's a couple other NPCs in there that I'm not thinking about that, you know, getting noted drops could be pretty sweet. If it includes bones, that is. But I already have the Will the Elite Diary done, so I already get noted D-bones. It'd be interesting to see if a normal player will get noted D-bones or if it's just the regular drops. So if it includes 100% drops, I assume it does. Again, creating a new meta. I think it's interesting. Whether it will be 100% completely useful, who knows? It could be a pretty cheap amulet. This thing could be like 500k for all we know. And as long as you're protecting it, could be interesting. Question 5 sees the return of the Ferocious ring to RuneScape. Those of you who've been playing for a long time remember the Ferocious ring as the ring you used in Curadel's Slayer dungeon. It basically added 4 damage to every hit you did, no matter what. So if you hit a 1, you hit a 5. You basically couldn't hit lower than 50 at the time because that was after the Constitution update that added a 0 to our hit points. All fun and games, right, guys? Anyway, this is very similar. It offers stats apparently similar to that of the unimbued Fremennik rings, and if you go ahead and check the stats, it's essentially every single... This is the kind of, like, the sketchy thing. It's every single Fremennik ring, all in one, which is kind of a big deal. So this ring is actually going to be a hybrid ring. Like, great for going to DKs. This ring will be worth a lot of money. Anyway, if you wear the ring, you are constantly skulled, which obviously is a bit of a, like, oh, do I want to be skulled? Well, guess what? We already don't lose anything on death because we can run back. So, what does it matter? Anyway, you have a skull. The other interesting thing is the deeper you are in the wilderness, you get more bonuses, essentially, on top of all combat styles as you get deeper. So, the most you can get if you're above 40 wilderness, it's plus 5% to your damage and accuracy. This ring will not be used in the wilderness. It's going to be used as a hybrid ring. I don't think it says anywhere here, and nowhere that I can find at least, that says this ring will only be able to be used in the wilderness. So yeah, it's going to be... This is an interesting little hybrid ring. I kind of like it. It's right on the middle ground of literally everything. It'll be great for stuff like Theater of Blood. I right now have to choose between... like, either basically a defensive ring that's going to apply to every single boss I'm fighting, or, like, pick one combat style. So, really interesting ring that'll probably be the meta for most raids coming up. you're kind of saying, okay, well, you know what? Instead of 8 melee strength, I'm going to have 4. But I'm also going to have some attack bonuses, 4 attack bonus to whatever melee style I'm using. And when I switch over to magic or range, well, I get some freaking bonuses there as well. Kind of interesting. Anyway, that's really cool. I look forward to that ring coming into the game. I think it's going to be worth quite a bit of money, maybe upwards of 20 mil, would be my guess. Probably settling around 10. Although, judging from the Ring of the Gods, it's a useless ring that has a lot of value because it's so rare. Who knows? But I think it's going to be pretty cool. Should Revenant NPCs have a chance to drop a spell scroll that would unlock a new spell called Restraint? Not sure how the PKing community feels about this. I think it brings the normal spellbook a little more into favor versus Ancients. This spell still doesn't do mass damage like Ice Barrage does. It does, however, freeze for that same amount of time. Another important thing you're looking at, it costs Wrath Runes, Fire Runes, and Earth Runes. If you are, in fact, using the normal spellbook to fight people, you're probably using God spells. If you're not using God spells, you're using the new Wrath spells, the new Surge spells. And you can notice Earth Runes and Fire Runes, they are making you bring at least 1 extra rune to get this spell off. So normally you'd have Wrath, Fire, Air to cast Fire Surge. They are making you bring Earth Runes, so that's a bit of a balance. You are bringing another thing in your inventory to freeze people. But if you're using God spells, these are all runes. Aside from the Fire Runes, you're bringing 2 extra types of runes. So something to keep in mind there. That is, as much as you might think it's not a big deal, a bit of a balance. You can't fit everything into your rune pouch. So that's a big deal. Either way, I think this is relatively balanced. I think we already have 20-second freezes in the game. Give it to the normal spellbook. This spell is not going to be used as often as you think. I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Moving on, what is possibly the biggest and probably most controversial question here. I will be voting no, but let's talk about it for before I get into why. Let's talk about what this is. Jagex wants Revenants to potentially drop a Telebrock scroll. Essentially, it's giving free-to-play has had, and Jagex said this in the dev blog, free-to-play has been wanting / asking for / they've been wanting. It's not really clear who wants this to happen, but apparently it's a thing that a numerous amount of people want free-to-play to have teleblock. When you think about it, once you hit 20 Wilderness in free-to-play, there's really nothing stopping you from getting away. So free-to-play PKing, it is a little lame once you hit that 20 Wilderness. People just zoom away. There's no way to stop them. So this is basically, we're not giving free-to-players teleblock, but we're giving them this scroll that they could cast the spell from. I don't know, man. I just don't like it. It doesn't make much sense to me. You would still have to have the level required. You're giving them the spell. Like, what's the difference? At free-to-play teleblock, I just think this changes things way too much. There's a difference between what I like in this poll, which is meta shifting, as opposed to meta flip upside down and completely, just ruin and change. Free-to-play is not the most balanced game mode. Do I think PKing in free-to-play would probably benefit from this change? Maybe, but it's been the way it's been for so long. It's just not an area I understand very well. And now that I say that, and again, recommend everybody kind of do what I do. Talk out loud to yourself with these poll questions. I know it's just a video game, but hey, if you're in real life voting, talk it out with yourself. Here are my pros and cons. I'm gonna skip this question. Just because, you know what? I don't really know what this is going to do if it was in the game. I personally don't think it should be in the game, but I can at least acknowledge that, yeah, there are some benefits to free-to-players having teleblock. So I'm going to go ahead and skip, just because I really can't find myself at a comfortable, confident place of voting. Moving on, if the teleblock scroll is added to the games, do they make the Revenant Caves free-to-play? I don't think you should make the Revenant Caves free-to-play. No, absolutely not. Moving on. We don't need to touch on that too much. Should Revenant NPCs... Wow, I don't even know. This is the Barbed Reet. Now, this is interesting. This is a weapon, and it is what appears to be a melee weapon, and so it's a melee weapon, but it's not. It's in the shield slot, so it's not really a melee weapon, but it attacks. It's got negative attack bonuses. It's got very, very little defense bonuses. 5 slash, 5 magic, and for some reason it has 2 ranged strength. Either way, it is essentially bolas. If you remember the bolas, whatever, however it's pronounced, based on like the real life bolas, those kind of things you'd swing around and you could throw and it would wrap around an animal or a target's legs. Look it up, BOLAS. It's a real thing. This is essentially Jagex asking us if we want that. I don't know why we've put it in the shield slot. I don't know why we've made it look like this bludgeony kind of weapon. Apparently you use a special attack, and if it hits, you have frozen your opponent for 20 seconds, and then they're also poisoned by this melee weapon. No. I have issue with the execution on this one, but I also have issue with more freezes in the game. You don't need to give melee or range or whatever you're giving. It's not even very clear who's getting this, like what combat style this is for. It just doesn't seem like a good idea to give people more ways to freeze players in the wilderness. It's already so skewed. Like, you have your advantage. Why need more? I don't like it. So then we move on to just kind of, basically just quality of life changes. Cactus spines are a very, very valuable secondary resource from farming. It's the kind of thing not a lot of people get cactus spines, so it gets to the point where protecting, I think it's yew trees. Protecting yew trees is not worth it. You save money by not protecting your yew trees. You might get your levels slower because occasionally your yew trees will die, but you actually spend less money when a yew tree dies than when, essentially the math doesn't work out. You pay way too much money to protect them. Your seed, the loss of the seed every once in a while if a yew tree dies is it's basically more efficient for you than protecting your trees. At least it used to be the case back when I got 99 farming. So, this would be nice. If that's still a thing, and it seems like it is, hell yeah, give people more cactus spines. If not, give some NPC dropping them. I don't know why we haven't had an NPC drop cactus spines. There's a few, I believe, but seems like, I don't know, maybe like Theater Blood should have some cactus spines. I don't know. It doesn't make much sense, but it makes more sense than Swamp Tar. Anyway, should the number of seaweed spores dropped by NPCs on Fossil Island, such as the Lobstrosity, be increased? I don't know really much at all about this Fossil Island stuff, but what I will tell you is this is essentially slight little buffs to how fast you can get fossils in Fossil Island. I'm skipping these questions because I just don't know this increase well enough. I'd imagine most people don't understand. If there's not 30% skip question, you got a lot of people who say increase. Oh, sounds good for me. A lot of people going, oh yeah, that'd be great. I don't know anything about it, but yeah, sure. So I'm skipping those two. Should the Xerix talisman be changed to have its own unique teleport animation? Hell yeah. I love unique teleport animations. It gives the game flavor. It makes it feel good. The Xerix talisman is the talisman you get by killing lizardmen. You charge it with lizardmen fangs, and it is used to teleport all over Zaya. Great, useful tool. And it's actually one of the closer teleports to a bank. So if you have unlimited lizardman fangs, I've used the Xerix amulet, or talisman as it is. I've used it for training bank skills, like running off and doing prayer at my house tab, and then use the Xerix amulet to teleport back. It actually worked rather well. Should we tweak the mapping of the tar monsters found with the tar swamp area of Fossil Island so that they no longer cause so much trouble near the third Suliushep mushroom? I have done this content. It is woodcutting content. It's decent woodcutting XP. You also get fossils from it. The tar monsters are supposed to interrupt you, at least based on how I think they should be, having done this minigame. They're supposed to interrupt you as you're moving from mushroom to mushroom. You move in the same order. The mushrooms are instanced to you. You move from mushroom to mushroom in the same order every time. The third mushroom, occasionally, a tar monster can attack you while you are on the mushroom. There's no way to remove their damage. The only way to avoid it is by moving into a safe spot and logging out. It would be fantastic if this was fixed. So yeah, awesome. Glad somebody brought that up to Jagex and they listened. Hopefully people who know that that's a good idea will vote yes to that, because that's a great change. Every other mushroom is safe from tar monsters. Let's put it that way. So and you basically hop worlds. Again, there's no real danger. If it's on you, you hop worlds and you're safe. That shouldn't be a mechanic. You shouldn't have to hop worlds to do that. So, great change. Or it would be a great change. Should the amount of experience granted for handling the stick in the werewolf agility course be increased to 2 times the current amount? This would bring the werewolf agility course a little bit more into the meta. As we know, we're in like the rooftop meta. There's only one course. I think it's Falador. That's really not worth doing. Absolutely. Hell yeah. Buff other agility courses. I'm all about it. Honestly, I think the rooftop courses should probably be a little less XP per hour than some of the existing courses because you also get Marks of Grace. But that's just me. Whoopsies. Here we go. This next change is about Zygomites. It's the dreaded Slayer task. This essentially just means you'll be able to engage them faster. Nice change. Should be into the game. Should it be possible to left-click on all cooking ranges? This would be fan-flippin-tastic. Hell yeah. Walk up to a range. No more right-clicking on your food or clicking your food and then clicking on the range and misclicking on the giant pile of people there. You just click the range. Sweet. Nice quality of life change. Here's a big one. Should we reduce the HP of the Grotesque Guardians by 25%? This is the Gargoyle boss. Most of you are probably familiar with the Gargoyle boss. You probably pass by it in the Slayer Tower all the time. It's a horrible boss. The kills are really, really long. The rewards are what you'd expect for a level 70 Slayer boss to be. It needs nerfing. It needs to be easier to kill. So yes, reduce the health. Hell yeah. And they need to make the tasks faster, and this is the second part of this, where should a new Slayer reward be unlocked, or could a new Slayer reward be unlocked? Should it be unlocked? I don't know what I'm saying. Should a new Slayer reward be unlocked, where you can have those kills count for 2 Slayer kills as opposed to 1? This would make actually doing gargoyle tasks at Grotesque Guardians a lot better. I hate that you have to pay. It's still like a week. If you're even if you're like a pretty grindy player, you gotta spend a lot of time. It's probably close to half a week, maybe a week, to get a gargoyle task done at the gargoyle boss. Yeah, please, this would be great. I hate that you have to pay for it, but sure, you're reducing the HP a little bit, which is gonna speed up kills, and that's a big deal. And yeah, I think this is a nice little start. This is a good start for Jagex. You know, kind of just put your foot in the water, a little bit of a nerf. And see how it goes. They could potentially tweak it later. Jagex is, at least in my opinion, oftentimes over-buffing, over-nerfing things. So we'll see if this is that nice little middle ground that they find. This is just basically, can you left-click to get into a dungeon instead of right-click? Brilliant. No problem with that. Should deposit boxes be added to these locations? Yes, yes, and more. Yes. It's never a bad thing to have a deposit box. Should it be possible to right-click Ask a Lady to obtain a new pet rock? I don't care. I don't know if this is a big issue. Are people needing new pet rocks this much? I guess people who go in solo DKs, that's like a meta now. It's really easy to solo Dag Kings. So I assume people are getting pet rocks frequently so that they can get into the dungeon in the first place by themselves. You place the pet rock on one of the platforms that opens up the gates into that first little area where you have to have the pressure plates both put down at the same time. So I guess this is something that those people would probably want. I don't know much about how hard it is, but I would assume I'm leaning towards yes, but I don't know well enough. It can't hurt, right? So I feel like most people are probably going to be voting yes to that. It's just a nice quality of life change. Should the left click of spirit trees be changed to travel rather than your current talk to? Not a big deal, but kind of nice. And we're getting down to the home stretch here. Finally, this is a long video. Should it be possible for players to check the age of their kitten and display how long is left until it turns into a cat? Yes! This would be fantastic. It's been 10 years of this random cat guessing game. That would be amazing. This is something that was in RS a long time ago before old school. Teleport outside of your house on default. That would be great. Just saves people some time. Should the wise old man be able to remove any unnecessary quest items from members from the bank? For members from the bank, excuse me. Absolutely. And last but not least, check out the model of the Drayman staff. It's really cool. Certainly better than our twig that we have now, which is literally just a normal battle staff model. So not sure how this has made it this long without like its own model. But hey, you know what? I appreciate Jagex not overlooking some of the content that needs to be touched on. over years to come. That's it for this poll rundown. Holy shit, this was a long-ass video. I'm sorry for rambling. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, you're a champ. Happy voting. I hope you guys enjoyed me looking over this. As always, I should just say this. Please form your own opinions. There's a lot of stuff happening from content creators, and this will be my final piece in this video. I'm seeing some sketchy stuff from content creators, and always have regarding these polls. People offering incentives for people to vote one way or another is really shitty. I know it's a video game, but from a moral and principled standpoint, offering people money, whether directly or indirectly, to vote a certain way is very, very scummy. You know who you are. Not that you're watching this video, but if you see content creators doing this, let them know, guys. It's kind of a shitty move. It really is. Even though in some cases the option they're voting for is the more reasonable one and is the one that makes things better for the game, it's usually pretty easy to tell. Even if they are in, the right, if you can call some of these questions like the right and wrong side, you really can. But even if they are on that moral right side of voting, come on, man. You're better than that. Anyway, do not impression young minds with the with the hope of a little RuneScape gold. That is it for Poll Rundown. Thank you so much for watching. Come hang out on stream. It's twitch.tv/BarrowsBOY. I'm live there every single day. Thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next one.